and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel once again, guys, where it is time for the big Barca transfer news. Because today, Joan Laporta has spoken very publicly, and he has given us real insight into what we can expect this summer. We are going to be talking about Frenkie de Jong, because Laporta's words tonight, they've sent shockwaves around Manchester, because could he stay at Barca? We're also going to be talking about Ousmane Dembélé, who could be on the verge of renewing his contract at Barca. Plus as well, the very latest on Raphinha, Laporta's thoughts as well on Jules Koundé and Robert Lewandowski. It is all coming up right here for you. So let's get to it. Because indeed, Joan Laporta this evening spoke there to a number of different journalists there, speaking about players individually and also what us Barcelona fans can expect from what has been so far a crazy summer transfer window. And Laporta did officially confirm today that Kessie and Christensen will indeed sign for Barca this summer on free transfers there. He says that Kessie will be presented on Wednesday the 6th of July and Christensen there will be presented on the following day, on Thursday the 7th, and both of those players then will be able to go immediately into pre-season training with the team. And so Kessie and Christensen confirmed to be joining Barca. There was also plenty of talk as well, unsurprisingly, about Raphinha. That's really been the talk of the past 24 hours. Huge news, of course, coming out yesterday. It's later been now followed up on that earlier report from Gerard Romero. He is still the one really leading all of this right now. We haven't really heard too much confirmation from other sources at this stage, but Romero remains absolutely firm that that deal has been agreed with Leeds, and he says there that it's a 50 million deal plus 10 in add-ons there. So that's their 60 million in total that, like we said yesterday, we explained it will be paid over 3 separate installments. And Laporta today did indeed confirm Raphinha wants to come to Barca. He said, we have already communicated and we have already had talks with Leeds, and that was all that Laporta said on Raphinha. So they're confirming that yes, indeed, he does want to come. And it's also being reported, especially in the English media right now, that Chelsea, they're becoming very frustrated. They're becoming very tired of waiting for a response to their offer for Raphinha, because they feel as though here they've sort of been put to one side. They've basically been forgotten about in the background. They've got everything agreed with Leeds, but the problem is Raphinha does not want to go to Chelsea. He only wants Barca, and for that reason, we are huge and firm favourites now in this deal. However, guys, I would like to move on and talk about Ousmane Dembélé, because there has been a feeling over these past 48 hours when we've been hearing about Raphinha, when Dembele's contract has been expiring at the club, that it was always going to be Raphinha or Dembele, one or the other this summer. And many people were thinking, okay, it's going to be Raphinha then. We're paying out the money. He's going to come in. Dembele will leave now. His contract has expired. But Barca want both. That is very much the feeling right now, both inside the club and coming out of the media as well. Barca this summer, they want the most competitive team possible. They want the most options there available to Xavi for the coming season. And if that is to include Dembele, if he was to there accept significantly reduced terms, then yeah, the club would sign him again and actually have both of them. Because Laporta openly confirmed today that if Dembele does indeed accept what he said, our economic terms, then yes, he will stay at the club. He said, we haven't really set a time frame. We haven't set a deadline on this. He said things are very much still open. But he did admit there that if Dembele agrees there to that latest proposal from Barca, he can stay. And the latest we are hearing right now in the Catalan media is that Dembele, he is moving closer and closer now to renewing at Barca. Now, of course, these things can change very quickly, but the feeling right now is on Dembele's side, we kind of know it, that he doesn't really have any other option. He is very limited in what he was expecting this summer and what he actually got there in terms of offers. And the current deal on the table from Barca would see Dembele take a 40% wage reduction on what he was currently earning, of course, in those initial 5 years at Barca. And there are rumours that Dembele will sign a renewal until 2024, And that for me is interesting. And that is something actually that I could believe. I've always said that it would be a big risk, in my opinion, there to be launching ourselves into a 4 or 5 year deal with Dembele. But I think a 2-year deal, that is interesting. Because I think Barca don't really want to let Dembele walk out the door here for nothing. You know, his contract, yes, has expired, but they can still keep him on here if they can agree these terms. And they would like to get some sort of return on the huge investment we made on Dembele. And I do just wonder there, with that potential short-term deal on those reduced terms, I do wonder whether a reasonable release clause may have been agreed between the two parties that may be inserted into that deal, so that maybe if we get to the end of the coming season, if maybe there's not a feeling there from both parties to continue long-term, then Barca could at least get something next summer that's fixed already for Dembele. And that is there just a prediction, that is just something that I feel right now, but potentially that shorter term deal, it would allow for Barca to still remain in control and of course be able to count on Dembele for the coming season. And what would you make of that if Dembele was to stay there, was to accept that lower deal, to have him in addition maybe to Raphinha? Let me know, guys, what you would think of all of that taking place. But now we've got to talk about De Jong, and we really do have to talk about Frenkie de Jong, because obviously over these past few weeks we've been being told, you know, the deal is all agreed, the deal is done, the deal is going to happen with Manchester United. But what you've got to say at this point, guys, is, well, it hasn't happened. As of right now, it's not happened. And we've always said, very, very recently, we said, until it has happened, until it's official, you will never rule out the possibility of Frenkie actually turning around and saying, okay, I don't want to go. I do not want to move to Man United. Or the club saying, look, we don't actually want to sell you this summer. And it's very, very interesting because Laporta today said the following words. He said there are clubs that want De Jong this summer. He said not just Manchester United, but he said we have no intention of selling. He said talking about the player, he wants to stay at Barca. And I think those are incredible words, and I really am shocked by that tonight, guys. And I think many of us feel the same way, that Laporta has actually come out and said, you know what, guys, we're all talking about De Jong leaving, when's he going to go, where's he going to go, but actually, he wants to stay, and we do not want to sell. Now, one thing that I would say is, do I guarantee now that De Jong's going to stay? I would say no. Personally, there's a lot of things that have happened in the past. There's a lot of words that, of course, can change, so I would never guarantee now, based solely on those words alone, that De Jong is going to be here next season. But things have had a different feeling about them. Very recently, of course, these talks, especially with Man United, the kind of fees that were being branded around, there was a deal for me that never really made sense to do business with the kind of money that was being reported, and especially now with that end of the financial year, that's been and gone. We've ended the year in profit. We've still got that second huge economic lever that we discussed yesterday still to come in July, and you're just looking at this potential sale right now, and it almost starts to very much feel unnecessary for Frenkie de Jong. And of course this could, it could be a ploy from Joan Laporta to get more money out of Man United. I wouldn't rule that out either, given the fact there that he said, look, other clubs are involved too. They're making them aware of competition. They've also said, look, we don't really want to sell. So if you are going to take Frenkie away from us, you are going to have to really, really pay to do that. That's another angle that you may look at this. But Laporta also did say, you've got to be honest about this, that Frenkie de Jong, he is one of the best midfielders in the world. He said all the experts say that, and he said we're very happy to have him. And there does seem to have been a bit of a shift at Barcelona, not guaranteeing anything, but certainly a different feeling with Frenkie. But one thing that I have to highlight, and we also have to pay special attention to here, guys, is these words as well, because Laporta followed up those statements then by saying, I'm going to do my best to keep Frenkie de Jong. He said, but there is also a salary issue that would have to be adjusted, and that is also what we've spoken about recently, because I have always kind of had the feeling that it was all about wages, that this was all about here De Jong and that contract. He's on, of course, around €350,000 a week, one of Barca's highest earners. There's a clause in that deal inserted by Bartomeu that will see that wage increase in the coming season, and Barca don't like that. Of course they don't like that. The club want to take control of this contract, and has this all been a feeling here of making sure that De Jong Jong agrees to that. And to be honest, I think he does. I think he will. I think there's always been a feeling that De Jong wants to stay at Barca. He doesn't want to go to Man United. That has been clear from the very word go. I think he would renegotiate. I think he would lower that salary. And that is something that definitely, in these days and indeed weeks to come, keep an eye on it. Because this De Jong situation, now, it's in the balance. Laporta, though, also had a few words there for some other Barcelona transfer targets in this window. He spoke there about Jules Koundé. Well, he was asked there about Koundé by the journalist, and he basically said, you want to talk about Koundé? Go and see Mattia Almani. That's what Laporta said there. But he said, when we activate the second economic lever, that big one we discussed yesterday, we are going to work at the top level. And it really does feel as though right now, Almani in the background working really hard on these deals, negotiating as best as he possibly can, and when that second lever, when that's activated, we can go to work and we can really look to bring in some top quality players. And speaking of that indeed, Robert Lewandowski. Laporta there said Lewandowski is a Bayern player, and I prefer to keep the situation quiet, not talk too much about that. But Laporta did say, we are really happy that he wants to join Barca, and we thank him for that. And I think that's a classic line there, because on the one hand he's saying, I don't want to talk about Lewandowski, I don't want to say anything publicly, he's a Bayern player, but then also saying, I appreciate that he wants to come. I'm aware, and we're all aware now, that Lewandowski wants to leave Bayern, join Barca. We've all known that, and Laporta openly confirming that. Talks ongoing, as we discussed yesterday, for Robert Lewandowski. And I do believe that in the end, that is a deal that will be done. But there's lots going on, guys, isn't there? So much happening right now. What do you make there of those Frenkie de Jong rumours? What do you make about the fact that he could stay at the club? What do you see happening with him? Do you think that he will now remain at Barca based on those words from Laporta? Or is there still a chance that he may leave? Also, let me know on Raphinha, on Dembele too. What about him potentially staying at the club, as we are all taking part here in yet another late night video? Thank you indeed for all of you tuning in, getting involved and watching today, guys. And thank you as well, special thanks for the really generous super thanks donation that I got in yesterday's video. That was a long one yesterday. This one, not quite as long, but there is still plenty going on. Thank you for all of you for your support. I will be back. There will be more happening, because at Barca right now, we are ready to tackle this summer and to do the business that puts us back on the map. I will see you soon. Thank you for watching. But until next time, as always, Visca, El Barça.